The partition of India in 1947. We have been told it was a battle between the Congress and the Muslim League. Nehru versus Jinnah, Hindu versus Muslim. But that's only half the story. Hidden behind the headlines was a third force, consisting of Hindu Mahasabha, the RSS, and the All India Muslim League, whose ideas, alliances, and actions shaped the politics that tore India apart. We will trace how their ideas clashed and converged in the run up to partition, how the Hindu nationalist side sometimes partnered with the Muslim League, and how that path leads to the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. This is history as it rarely gets told. This is their story told through documented facts, not mythology. I will try to display the list of references at the end of this episode. In addition, the references are also given in the description of this episode on YouTube. Before Pakistan was even conceived, the Hindu Mahasabha had already declared Hindus and Muslims to be two nations. In 1937, at the Mahasabha's Ahmedabad session, Vinayak Damodar Savarkar proclaimed India cannot be assumed to be a unitarian and homogeneous nation. There are two nations in the main, the Hindus and the Muslims. That's 3 years before Jinnah's Muslim League adopted the Lahore Resolution of 1940. Savarkar's theory did not call for Pakistan. It called for a Hindu Rashtra, a political civilization where Hindus were the core nation and others merely tolerated minorities. This was the ideological mirror image of the Muslim League's demand. Both rejected Gandhi's idea of a shared composite India. While Congress fought for an inclusive secular freedom struggle, the Hindu Mahasabha turned nationalism into religious identity. The RSS entered this ecosystem a decade earlier. Founded in 1925 in Nagpur by Keshav Baliram Hegdewar, it claimed to be a cultural organization focused on uniting Hindus through daily shakhas and discipline. But its deeper goal matched Savarkar's to regenerate a Hindu nation weakened by centuries of foreign rule. From the start, the RSS stayed away from the Congress's mass movements. No non cooperation, no Dandi March, no Quit India. It saw moral reform, not anti British protest, as the path to strength. By the late 1930s, these ideas, that is, Hindu nationhood and Muslim nationhood, were no longer fringe. They were colliding head on with the Congress's vision of a united India. After the 1937 provincial elections, Indian politics was reshaped not by unity but by opportunism. The Congress swept most provinces, yet its dominance left both the Hindu Mahasabha and the Muslim League politically isolated and humiliated. Each had imagined itself as the voice of its community, but the results showed otherwise. That shared defeat would soon become the foundation of a shared strategy. Most Indians have never been told this uncomfortable truth that two organizations who preached religious separation quietly collaborated to keep the Congress out of power. From 1937 to the outbreak of World War II, the Hindu Mahasabha and the Muslim League entered several provincial alliances not because they believed in each other's cause, but because they both feared a secular Congress monopoly. In Bengal, Shyama Prasad Mookerjee, then president of the Provincial Hindu Mahasabha and later founder of the Jan Sangh, served as the finance minister in the Muslim League-led government of Fazlul Haq. In Sindh and the Northwest Frontier Province, Mahasabha legislators supported League ministries and coalition arrangements. This wasn't an ideological alliance, but a practical one, a mutual deal to sideline the Congress and retain access to administrative power. When Congress leaders were being imprisoned for Quit India movement, Mahasabha and League representatives were signing provincial bills and co-governing under the British Raj. By 1939, as the Second World War loomed and the Congress resigned in protest over the Viceroy's decision to take India to war without consultation, these two communal formations moved to fill the vacuum. In province after province, they found each other useful. The League for its numbers, the Mahasabha for its organizational reach. Together they formed what can only be described as a marriage of convenience, one that proved communal politics could work as a formula for power. Yet the ideological fault line was never healed. By 1943, when the Sindh Assembly passed the Pakistan Resolution, Mahasabha members walked out in protest. But the damage was already done. The two nation idea was no longer confined to pamphlets and pamphleteers, it had been tested in the real laboratory of provincial politics. That was the true rehearsal for partition. Years before 1947, not in Lahore but in the corridors of Bengal and Sindh. The RSS built the muscle behind this ideology. Dr. Hegdewar's organization expanded rapidly through the 1930s and 40s. Each shakha drilled boys in physical exercise, Hindu history, and obedience. By 1940, the RSS claimed more than 1 lakh active volunteers. Its second chief, M.S. Golwalkar, wrote in the book Bunch of Thoughts declaring that the foreign races in Hindustan must either adopt Hindu culture and language, must learn to respect and hold in reverence the Hindu religion, or may stay in the country wholly subordinated to the Hindu nation. The message was clear: minorities existed only by Hindu tolerance. While the Congress sacrificed, the RSS stayed aloof from the independence struggle. It called Gandhi's Hindu Muslim unity a dangerous appeasement. Yet its cadre discipline impressed many Hindu Mahasabha politicians. Historians describe a division of labor. The Mahasabha handled politics, the RSS trained men. By the 1940s, their ecosystems overlapped. Many activists wore both hats, Mahasabha in public, RSS in private. When communal violence erupted in 46-47, RSS volunteers ran relief camps for Hindu refugees, but were also accused of retaliatory attacks in Punjab and Delhi. The organization insisted it was defending Hindus. The government accused it of stoking revenge. By independence, the RSS was no longer marginal. It was a mass movement shaped by years of militant discipline and ideological training. August 1947. India is free but bleeding. Over 10 million displaced, nearly 2 million dead or missing. The two nation theory had turned from rhetoric to reality. Savarkar opposed Pakistan in form but not in principle. He wrote, "We Hindus are a nation by ourselves." Once both sides accepted that logic, a single nation was impossible. The Hindu Mahasabha's own leaders now demanded strong retaliation for Hindu victims. RSS shakhas multiplied across North India, training young men amid refugee camps. The new Indian state, led by Nehru and Patel, viewed the RSS with growing alarm. Communal riots flared in Delhi. Government intelligence warned of extremist propaganda and arms training. On 30th January 1948, that tension exploded. Nathuram Vinayak Godse stepped forward at Birla House and fired 3 bullets into Gandhi's chest. Godse was a long-time Hindu Mahasabha worker and by his own admission a former RSS pracharak. His reason, Gandhi's insistence on non-violence and his plea for 55 crore rupees to be released to Pakistan. In his court statement, Godse declared Gandhi guilty of perpetual appeasement of Muslims. The government's response was swift. On 4th February 1948, the RSS was banned. Vallabhbhai Patel wrote, the activities of the RSS constituted a clear threat to the existing of government and the state. The extreme section of the Hindu Mahasabha was involved in the conspiracy. Thousands were arrested, RSS offices were shut. Yet by late 1949, after months of negotiation, the ban was lifted when the RSS promised to remain non-political. Savarkar was tried as a co-conspirator but acquitted for the lack of evidence. The deeper truth remained. The assassin, his ideology, and his organizational milieu all sprang from the same soil, the Hindu nationalist ecosystem that had rejected the idea of a composite India. Independent India's founding wood was not just partition, it was fratricide at the heart of its freedom. The RSS emerged from the ban bruised but intact. Within a few years, its alumni created a political front, the Bharatiya Jansangh, precursor to today's BJP. The Hindu Mahasabha faded, but its rhetoric lived on. Its declaration that Hindus and Muslims were two nations outlived both Savarkar and Jinnah. Modern historians like Christophe Jaffrelot and D.R. Goyal note that the RSS internalized Savarkar's message even as it avoided his fate. Build a Hindu nation, but through social work and electoral politics, not open rebellion. That strategic restraint helped Hindu nationalism re enter mainstream politics decades later. Meanwhile, Gandhi's assassination hardened the Indian state's commitment to secularism, at least on paper. Patel's letters after 1948 revealed deep unease. He admitted the RSS had devoted workers, yet warned they could easily slide into fanaticism. For decades, the organization denied any link to Godse, but the ideological overlap remains undeniable. So, what is the myth? That the partition was simply a Congress Muslim League duel? That Hindu nationalism was innocent of the two nation idea? That Gandhi's assassin was an isolated extremist? And what is the truth? That the Hindu Mahasabha had already endorsed the two nation theory in 1937, 3 years before Jinnah. That in Sindh and the northwest frontier province, it allied with the Muslim League to keep the Congress out. That the RSS stayed out of the independence struggle but built the organizational machinery that powered Hindu nationalism after 1947. And that Nathuram Godse's bullets were the final punctuation mark in a decade long ideological war against Gandhi's pluralist India. Savarkar's words from 1937 and Godse's from 1948 echo each other. Both saw India as a Hindu nation betrayed by accommodation. Between those years, two ideas ran in parallel: Jinnah's Pakistan for Muslims and Savarkar's Hindutva for Hindus. Together, they dismantled the very notion of a united India that Gandhi died defending. History is not comfortable. It's supposed to sting. When you hear politicians today speak of Hindu Rashtra, remember that phrase predates independence. When someone says partition was a Muslim demand, remember the first man to declare two nations in India was not Jinnah, it was Savarkar. And when people celebrate Gandhi's martyrdom without understanding his murder, remember he was killed not by a foreign enemy, but by an Indian nationalist who believed violence was patriotism. Partition divided the land. Gandhi's assassination divided the soul of India. The question is, have we ever really reunited after that? This is the truth versus myth. I'm Ajay Prakash. I'll see you again in the next episode. Thank you for watching.